The millionaire, trapped in armored car saved by a black beggar woman. Charles had known luxury. Enormous houses with shiny floors, fast cars that whispered promises of freedom, and a yacht that floated like a dream when the sun set. Yet here he was, cramped in the back of an armored car, heart pounding, surrounded by men whose faces were more shadow than light. He could smell the sweat and desperation on them, a potent mix of fear and grit. It all happened so fast. The screeching tires, the gunshots, and the chaos erupting outside in downtown Chicago. Suddenly, life as he knew it was hanging by a thread. Regret washed over him like icy water. The casinos, the parties, the people he left behind, all had cost him something. Relationships sacrificed on the altar of ambition. Friends who faded into the backdrop while dollar signs sparkled like stars. And now, trapped here, all alone. His thoughts were disrupted by a sharp movement outside the car. A woman stood near the curb. Ellen. He didn't know her name, but the fierce gleam in her eyes struck him like lightning. Unlike the numb expressions of the gangsters around him, her gaze burned with something alive, something real. It was a challenge and an invitation, all wrapped in one. The noise outside exploded into a symphony of chaos. Screams, shouts, and the distant wail of sirens slicing through the air. Time slowed, and danger wrapped around him, pressing closer. The armored car shuddered, caught in the grip of uncertainty. Could anyone hear him? His throat felt tight, words choked by the weight of his situation. And just like that, an explosion rocked the ground beneath him. The impact rattled his bones, the sound deafening as the world fell apart. Smoke poured into the cramped space, a thick curtain that clawed at his lungs. He instinctively ducked, and that's when he saw it. The car door flung open, and Ellen breaking through the haze. "Get out," she yelled, her voice cutting through the chaos. Her hand reached for him with an urgency that sent shivers down his spine. But was this a rescue or a trap? Desperation clawed at him, a madness in his chest. What if he trusted her and it all fell apart? Yet, as the gangsters scrambled to regain control amidst the tumult, something in her relentless gaze told him she wouldn't back down. Without fully thinking, he moved. He stumbled toward her outstretched hand. Voices echoed around them. Someone shouted. "Run!" she urged, and with one frantic leap into the unknown, their fates intertwined. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The sound of chaos faded into a low hum as Charles and Ellen sprinted down the street. Sirens wailed like banshees in the distance, and the acrid smell of smoke stung his nostrils. Fear coiled tightly in his chest, squeezing the breath from his lungs. They tucked into an alley, the shadows wrapping around them like a familiar cloak. "Keep going," Ellen urged, her voice sharp and clear, slicing through the panic swirling in his mind. He followed her, heart racing, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Every step felt like an electric jolt. But where were they going? What was happening? As they rounded a corner, she suddenly slowed, peering through the haze of smoke that lingered like a ghost. Charles leaned forward, trying to catch his breath. The chaos outside was settling, police cars now forming a barrier around the scene. Yet the world felt distorted, like looking through warped glass. And then he saw it. A figure standing on the opposite street corner, a man in a tailored suit, his expression calm amid the madness. Shock rippled through Charles. He recognized the face. It was Robert, his former business partner. The man who'd driven him to the edge of ambition, who'd whispered sweet lies of success into his ear like they were gospel. Robert? His voice cracked, disbelief flooding him. Why was he here? Why now? Ellen's eyes widened, but before she could respond, Robert raised a hand. Charles, come here. I can help you. His voice rang out, somehow smooth and chilling all at once. Help? Help how? Charles felt a lump in his throat. You're not? A part of him pulled back, warning him of the truth he couldn't yet articulate. Suddenly, the din of chaos eclipsed by an eerie silence as a gunshot rang out, echoing through the alley, resonating in Charles's chest. He twisted around, instincts screaming. In a heartbeat, he felt Ellen move, her fingers gripping his wrist. We have to go, now. She tugged him, but his gaze was locked on Robert, who remained eerily still. A glimmer of something sinister lurking in his eyes. Another crack of sound, followed by a thud. A figure stumbled into view, blood blooming across a white shirt, like a flower unfolding, the horror painfully vivid amidst the gloom. It was one of the gangsters, face twisted in pain, collapsing toward them. Panic surged inside Charles. The realization hit with absolute clarity. Robert had betrayed him, orchestrated this chaos like a puppet master in his grand design. Run! Ellen cried again, pulling him away just as another shot rang out, the bullet grazing Charles's arm. Pain flared brightly and he hissed, but Ellen's persistent grip on his wrist didn't falter. She was his anchor in a tempest of betrayal. Yet as they fled deeper into the unknown, a realization struck him. The bloodied figure on the ground was not merely a victim, but a personal connection to the very betrayal he faced. He turned back again, heart rate spiking. Robert was now transforming from ally to enemy in the blink of an eye, and everything he once claimed to be was slipping away. Charles, focus! Ellen yelled again, her face a mirror of raw fear, but he felt the world around him spinning. For a fleeting moment, he caught the glint of recognition in her eyes as she faced the unfolding chaos, a hint that this was more than a chance encounter, that her fierce spirit was intertwined with secrets he had yet to uncover. As they plunged into the rapid flow of humanity, people screaming, darting for safety. Everything Charles thought he knew faltered, cracked like thin ice. The fracture was wide, the consequences unclear. Who was Ellen, really? What did she know? But there was no time to dwell. Ellen led the way, her grip tight on his wrist. They weaved through the throng, navigating the rubble of chaos, littered with shards of glass and debris from the explosion. Adrenaline pumped through him, but the echoes of betrayal twisted like knives in his gut. Ellen, where are we going? He asked, voice barely above a whisper, breathless and confused. Trust me, she shot back, determination etched across her face. Beneath the grime and panic, a fire burned within her, a fierce, unyielding will. Just then, an unexpected sound ripped through the air. It was a low rumble, like thunder rolling in from a distant storm, but building in intensity. Charles turned to look back only for a moment, needing to see Robert again, needing clarity in all this uncertainty. And then an impossibility occurred before his eyes. The street erupted, not from gunfire or chaos, but from a massive truck barreling down the road, tires screeching as it careened towards them. The beast of metal roared like a monster, the driver seemingly lost in the frenzy. People scattered, screaming, hands clutched to heads or trying to shield themselves in terror, and Charles felt a wave of panic wash over him. "Run!" Ellen yelled, her voice piercing the tumult, breaking through the haze. He turned, instincts kicking in, and they pushed forward, merging into the desperate crowd. The truck veered toward them, the chaos unfolding faster than Charles could process. The truck swerved and crashed into a nearby building, the explosion flaring out like a cruel sun, a shockwave rolling from its core. Everything went white. Instinctively, Charles shielded his eyes and stumbled back. When he opened them, the world had changed. Debris rained down, and smoke curled through the air like a serpent. When he blinked, his vision cleared enough to see Ellen. But what shocked him was not just the destruction around them. It was her expression, and the blood gushing from her arm. "Ellen!" he screamed, the fear slamming into him. She crumpled to the ground right there, hand clamped to her injury, the sight strangling him with dread. But as he rushed toward her, a surreal moment happened. Out of the smoke emerged a figure, Robert. He stood there, face pale, breathless, yet calm, as if waiting for something. "Why are you here?" Charles demanded, anger thrumming through him. As if on cue, Robert gestured toward Ellen. "She's not who you think she is, Charles." "What?" The words felt like a punch. "She was never meant to save you. She was planted here to ruin everything. This was all part of a bigger game, you fool." He smirked, a twisted pride in his voice. A chill ran down Charles's spine. Ellen's fierceness, her fire, the way she pulled him from that armored car, it had felt too real, too raw. But what if it was all a ruse, a trap disguised as salvation? "Ellen, is this true?" His voice trembled, hope and despair warring in his heart. As she struggled to speak, eyes shimmering with pain and something deeper, a mix of fear and regret, everything in Charles shattered. He could hardly breathe, the space around him collapsing in with dizzying speed. Her voice, barely a whisper, met him with a haunting truth. I tried, but you have to understand." Before she could finish, a scream erupted nearby, breaking the fragile tension. Sirens wailed louder, thrumming like a heartbeat, the world around them spinning out of control. How had it come to this? Betrayal, pain, confusion. Charles's heart raced. Was she an ally or an enemy? As chaos unfolded, he faced two impossible paths: stand with her in this madness, or heed Robert's taunting call, now echoing in his mind. The stakes had never felt higher. "Ellen!" he yelled, but would he still trust her? Could he? In the thick fog of turmoil, decisions loomed, heavy with dread. The truth of her existence hung like a blade between them, poised to cut deeper. Would he leap into the unknown with her, or turn away? The very air felt electric with uncertainty as he stood at the precipice, daring to take the next step. Ellen's hand trembled as she winced, blood soaking through her fingers. "I tried," she gasped, pain flickering in her eyes. Helplessness cloaked in desperation. "You have to believe me." But how could he? How could he trust her when Robert stood nearby, a predator circling, reveling in the chaos? Charles felt the weight of betrayal, sharp and cold. Every heartbeat pulsed with doubt. He needed answers, clarity. "Just tell me the truth," he demanded, his voice rising over the chaos. Everything around him felt like a blur, yet here was this moment, a single thread in a tapestry of confusion. The streets roared with the aftermath. Sirens wailed, and the air crackled with tension. People darted in every direction, their faces masks of fear and urgency. Charles could barely think. His mind raced like an engine ready to blow. Ellen struggled to prop herself up, gritting her teeth. "I'm not your enemy, Charles." Each word felt like a dagger against his resolve. "They sent me to protect you." "Protect me?" he echoed, anger fueling his confusion. "You're at the center of all this." But something in her eyes, a flicker of sincerity, made him pause. Just then, out of the smoky haze, a figure broke through the crowd, moving fast. It was a woman, tall, fierce, radiating an aura of authority. "Step aside," she commanded, voice cutting through the din. She pushed through the chaos like a ship slicing through water. No one seemed to heed her, but Charles felt drawn to her, a moth to a flame. "Stay down," Ellen shouted, grabbing him just as gunshots erupted again nearby, ringing out like a concert of horror. Huddled together, they ducked behind the debris, hearts pounding in time. The woman approached, eyes sweeping the area. As she neared them, something in her stance screamed danger. "Get him to me," she yelled, locking eyes with Ellen. It was a look of recognition, something deeper than chance. "Who are you?" Charles managed to force between breaths. Confusion amplifying the chaos. "I'm the one who sent her," the woman replied, her tone unwavering, as if unveiling a grand secret. "I'm your sister, Charles." His world spun. "What? No, that can't be." "Greg!" the woman snapped, her voice raw with urgency. "They're coming! We have to move!" Charles staggered back. "Sister, is this a joke?" But before she could answer, a volley of shots rang out again. The air felt electric, the danger palpable. Ellen's eyes were filled with shock, and he could see her thoughts racing, piecing together all the moments that led to this. "You don't understand," she barked. "She's lying. You can't trust her." "Enough!" the woman shot back, glaring at Ellen before turning her focus back on Charles. "You're in real danger. They're tracking you because of what you have, what you don't even know you possess." "What do I possess?" Charles felt the weight of her words. Fear and anger twisted inside him, a knot he couldn't unravel. But then, the sudden blast of an explosion echoed close by, thundering through the street. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and everyone around them screamed, recoiling. The pressure of the blast hurled Charles and Ellen to the ground. "Get up!" the woman roared, pulling them both back to their feet. But when he looked around, everything seemed in flames, shadows dancing wildly. Visions of the past churned like a storm as he faced the truth he never saw coming. In the fray, everything splintered, trust shattered. Robert's voice rose above the chaos. "Charles, you need to decide. Will you follow her lies or come back to me?" Heart racing, he glanced at Ellen, her face barely lit by the fire surrounding them. Then at the woman who claimed to be his sister, desperation curling in her eyes. "Come with me," she shouted. Each path loomed large, wrapped in uncertainty and danger. As the world twisted into chaos, he teetered on the brink. Which road to take? Which voices to trust? Igniting uncertainty, a truth hung in the air, thick as smoke. What if everything he believed was crafted on a foundation of lies? With that question looming, Charles took a step forward, ready to leap into the unknown. But fate twisted again. A figure darted from the smoke, weapon raised, sending ice through his veins. In that moment, everything felt destined to change as the chaos roared around them. Charles felt the weight of every choice pressing down like a heavy fog. The shadow of the man with the weapon loomed large as he steadied his aim. Adrenaline pulsed in his veins, panic clawing at his throat. Then, without thinking, Charles jumped in front of Ellen, instinctively shielding her from the danger. "Get down!" he shouted, voice cracking. Ellen's breath caught, her eyes wide in shock. Just as the man pulled the trigger, time stretched into a cruel eternity. Charles braced for impact, heart racing. But instead of the expected crack of gunfire, a sharp, blinding light erupted, engulfing them all. A deafening boom followed, and the moment shattered like glass. The street convulsed beneath their feet, an explosion of chaos exploding from an unseen force. The man with the gun was flung backward, his body twisting in the air like a rag doll. Amid the smoke and debris, a figure emerged from the explosion, almost as if it had been birthed from the chaos itself. It was a woman, clothed in a shimmering fabric that glinted under the fragmented sunlight breaking through the haze. Her hair flowed like a river down her back, cascading over her shoulders. As she stepped forward, a calmness fell over the chaos, and everyone else seemed to stand still in stunned silence. "Enough!" she commanded, her voice booming yet harmony. She raised her hands, palms out, and suddenly the violence halted. Bullets dropped from the air, suspended, as if caught in a spell. The raging crowd fell silent, swept away in a moment of reverence. But it was Charles's next realization that shattered all he thought he knew. This woman wasn't a stranger. She bore an uncanny resemblance to him. A storm of confusion roared within. Who was she? "Who are you?" he managed to choke out, breathless with disbelief. "I am your mother," she declared, stepping closer, the shimmering fabric flowing around her like waves. "And you, Charles, are my son." The words struck him like lightning, electrifying every fiber of his being. "You're what?" he gasped, eyes darting between this impossible figure and Ellen. Was this a lie? He felt Ellen's grip tighten on his arm, her face a mask of shock and worry. "She's lying," Ellen spat, venom in her tone. "This is a game. Don't listen to her." "No," Charles shot back, frustration bubbling over. "You're the one who's been a part of this madness. Why should I trust you?" The woman drifted closer, an ethereal glow enveloping her. "Because, Charles, everything has led you to this moment," she said, voice soft but powerful. "The chaos, the betrayal, even your partner Robert, he was just the beginning. There's a far greater threat lurking, a legacy that runs deep in our blood." The revelation hit him like a tidal wave, drowning him in confusion. His vision narrowed, the world spinning. Was she serious? A legacy? Before she could answer, an ear-splitting crack shattered the air. A sharp shot rang out, this time from nowhere. Chaos reignited, and the woman staggered, a crimson bloom blossoming on her shoulder. The look of betrayal flickered in her eyes as she crumpled to the ground like a marionette whose strings were cut. "No!" Charles screamed, falling to his knees beside her, shock coursing through him. The moment spiraled into chaos as the crowd surged, poured into the streets like a relentless tide. Ellen pulled him away, her face pale. "Charles, we need to run. This isn't over." But he couldn't move. Everything felt unreal. The woman's look, was it fear, regret, or acceptance? Doubts swirled and unspooled in his mind, tying him to this moment of terrifying vulnerability. The sirens wailed louder, the chaos swirling around them thick as fog. "We have to go, now," Ellen yanked him up, and he stumbled along with her, mind racing, heart thundering. But as they ran, the question haunted him. Who was his real enemy? Who was linked to the blood that coursed through his veins? And at that moment, he realized with a chill that the truth behind safety was murkier than the chaos surrounding him. As they darted down the alley, adrenaline propelling them forward, another revelation slammed into him like a freight train. If she was telling the truth, everything he believed about his life, his choices, the people closest to him, was all an elaborate facade, one that nobody had bothered to reveal until now. And as they turned the corner, the night opened before them. Charles understood. Everything had changed. But where they would land and who would be by their side now hung in the balance. The shadows began to close in, leaving him breathless with doubt. What awaited them in the darkness? As they stumbled down the alley, Charles felt the chaotic rhythm of the city thrumming through the soles of his shoes. The air was thick with smoke, laced with fear and urgency. Each step seemed to echo louder than the sirens in the distance, drowning out the tumult that. Trust felt like a fragile glass ball, teetering on the edge of breaking. "Keep moving," Ellen yelled, pulling him along. Her grip was tight, but her fingers trembled. He could feel her heartbeat racing, a pulse that matched his own, fear pooling in both their chests. They ducked into a small doorway, the entrance to a deserted shop. The air inside was stale, but at least they were hidden. At least for now. "Do you think we lost them?" Charles panted, trying to catch his breath. He saw the sheen of sweat on her forehead, the shadow of fear nesting in her eyes. Suddenly, the door flung open, banging against the wall like a heart racing out of control. A man burst in, wild-eyed and frantic. "Get out!" he shouted, eyes wide with terror. "They're coming! We're not safe here!" Charles's heart dropped. "Who?" Just then, gunfire erupted outside, echoing ominously. His stomach turned, the sound sharp and chilling. "We have to go! Now!" he cried. As they bolted back into the street, the world grew kaleidoscopic, blurs of color, movement, and danger. A heavy vehicle braked to a screeching halt nearby, the unmistakable roar of an engine, like a beast demanding attention. But amidst it all, a shocking twist struck him straight to his core. A figure stepped from the truck, dressed in black. It was Robert, merciless and composed, a smirk playing on his lips like a serpent coiled in the grass. "Charles, Ellen," he beckoned, voice smooth yet sinister, as if they were two old friends. "Come here. I have something to show you." "Don't!" Ellen cried, pulling harder on Charles's arm. But his feet felt glued to the ground, curiosity gripping him. What is it?" Charles stammered, a mix of disbelief and dread swelling in his chest. The vulnerability of the moment made him want to hide, yet he felt compelled to know. "You're not ready for this," Robert said, eyes glinting like shards of glass, holding a mysterious piece of paper. "But you'll have to choose." "Choose?" His mind raced with horror, the weight of that word pressing like a leaden weight in his gut. "What do you mean?" With an unsettling calm, Robert leaned forward, holding the paper up to the light. "It's all here, Charles. The truth about who you really are. About your family. About what you're capable of." Ellen's face blanched. "Stop! Don't listen to him!" She shoved Charles away. But in that moment, a chilling realization washed over him. The very air around them felt charged, crackling with something dark and powerful. "Ellen, wait!" Before he could finish, Robert's smirk widened. "You think you know her? The woman who saved you? She's not who you think she is." Everything froze. Charles's heart raced, confusion thickening as he turned to Ellen. What? What are you saying? She shook her head, desperation flooding her eyes. It's not true, Charles. I'm here to protect you. But Robert's laughter pierced the air, cruel and mocking. She's a spy, Charles, sent to watch you. You really thought she cared? Betrayal hit like a bomb, blasting the ground beneath him. Was that true? Ellen stepped back, fear morphing her face into a mask of pain. No, it's not like that. I fought for you. Please believe me. But disparity gripped Charles tighter as he stared into the depths of Robert's eyes. A cunning light flickered there, shadowy and sinister. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath him, a blast, a shockwave rushing through the air. The streets erupted in chaos. People screamed, running like ants disturbed from their nest. Charles turned to Ellen, ready to ask for clarity, to confirm her truth. But when he looked back at her, she was gone, disappeared into the crowd, as if the chaos had swallowed her whole. Ellen, he shouted, panic ripping through his chest. Desperation clawed at him, fright spiking like a jolt of electricity. In that moment of pure chaos, he knew he had to choose who to trust, what to believe. And as the echoes of confusion surged, Robert's laugh rippled in the air like a sinister song, haunting him with questions he wasn't ready to answer. Was anyone truly who they seemed? As Charles scanned the chaos for Ellen, a primal fear gripped him. Where did she go? The crowd surged around him, faces blurring together, each one filled with its own terror. He staggered back, nausea rolling through him. Heart pounding, he turned, desperate for just a glimpse of her. Ellen, he shouted, voice cracking. Where are you? But each shout felt weaker, swallowed by the madness engulfing him. A sharp shove knocked him off his feet. He hit the ground hard, pain jolting through his shoulder. Voices rose around him. Frantic cries mixed with the sharp bark of commands. He scrambled to get up, pushing against the unforgiving pavement. Then he spotted Robert again, grinning like a wolf. There's no escaping this, Charles. His words dripped with malice, and dread coiled tightly in Charles's stomach. You're about to find out just how deep this betrayal goes. No! Charles yelled, but the street around him morphed into a blur. The weight of uncertainty crashed down on him, making it hard to breathe. Why wasn't Ellen back yet? Where could she be? Suddenly, the roar of a motorcycle cut through the cacophony. A dark figure bobbed in and out of the crowd, weaving expertly through the panic. Just then, the rider skidded to a stop right in front of Robert, revving the engine. Dust and smoke filled the air, swirling like ghosts in the aftermath of destruction. Step aside, the rider shouted, voice muffled but commanding. The helmet obscured their face, but the desperation radiated from them. Who do you think you are? Robert spat, eyes narrowing. Ignoring him, the rider leaned forward, kicking off the bike and charging into the throng. But then it happened. In a flash, the figure ripped off the helmet to reveal Ellen. Charles felt the ground slip beneath him. Ellen? But something was off. Her eyes were wild, glinting with something darker than he'd ever seen. I'm sorry, Ella cried, her voice like glass shattering. You have to understand. I tried to warn you. Warn me? About what? Panic surged as he reached out, confusion raging in his chest. Before she could respond, a loud crack echoed through the air. A single gunshot rang out. Not from Robert, not from anywhere else. It came from Ellen herself, Charles's world contracted into a small, suffocating space as he turned to see the gun, still smoking in her hand. The look of sheer terror plastered on her face. "No, no!" she gasped, dropping the weapon. It clattered to the ground, like a secret unveiled, her hands trembling. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I'm so sorry." His heart plummeted, a cold weight sinking into his soul. "You shot him?" "No!" she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "It wasn't him, Charles. It was for you. I had to protect you." "What are you talking about? Protect me from what?" The roar of the city faded into a low hum, his world narrowing around her. Then the truth poured out. "I'm not just a bystander. I was sent here to keep an eye on you, to keep you alive." "Alive? From what?" He felt the room twist around him, disbelief rooting him in place. But just then, Robert jerked back, clutching his shoulder, blood blooming beneath his fingers. "You damn fool! You'll never get away with this." He stumbled, eyes darting around, panic rising like smoke. "You have no idea what you're messing with." Charles's breath caught in his throat. The cavernous truth close to swallowing him whole. Robert and Ellen were not who they seemed. Everything was a lie, a carefully crafted web. The sirens wailed louder, wrapping around them, pulsing like a heartbeat. He turned, ready to run, but Ellen caught his arm, desperation etched on her face. "You have to trust me. There's more at play here. This is just the beginning." But his heart hardened. As chaos swirled around them, Charles felt the truth settle heavily between them. Trust was a fragile bird, and now it lay shattered at their feet. Would he follow her into the unknown, or flee from the truth he could barely grasp? The decision twisted in his gut, leaving him breathless. She said again, her voice shaking, "If you leave now, you might never know who you really are." A sudden explosion erupted nearby, the world igniting into chaos once again. With no clear path, he stood at a crossroads, heartbeat echoing in his ears. Would he take a chance on her, or let the shadows wrap around him for good? The moment was electric, charged with uncertainty as the fabric of their lives unraveled. The sirens wailed louder, wrapping around them, pulsing like a heartbeat. Charles stood frozen, eyes darting between Ellen and Robert, each moment stretching into eternity. The heaviness of secrets and betrayal thickened the air until it felt impossible to breathe. "Trust me," Ellen pleaded, desperation flooding her voice. "You need to get away from him." Her words blurred into the background, drowned out by the chaos swirling around them. He felt torn, caught between the fear in her eyes and Robert's chilling confidence. Could he truly believe her after everything? But then, the ground shook again, this time more violently. The asphalt beneath them quaked, and panic surged through the crowd like a tidal wave. People stumbled, hands clutching at their heads. Out of nowhere, a blinding light flared to life just ahead of Robert, illuminating everything in a wash of white. It was as if the sun had broke through the storm. But it felt wrong, unnatural. The light pulsed, growing larger and brighter. Ellen screamed, her voice filled with terror. In that instant, everything shattered. The explosion sent a shockwave that sent him tumbling. He hit the ground hard, darkness swallowing him whole. His mind struggled to grasp the reality, even as everything felt surreal. When he opened his eyes, the world had shifted. He lay on the ground, but the air felt different, strange. The chaos around him was gone. He pushed himself up, blinking against the brightness. The crowd had evaporated. Where was everyone? A chill ran through him. There, at the far end of the street, stood Robert. But he wasn't untouched. His body shimmered strangely, the edges of his form flickering. "You should have listened," he sneered, but it sounded distant, echoing as if from a different time. "Where is Ellen?" Charles rasped, heart racing. But Robert faded, a twisted smile on his face, as the world blurred. "Don't you see?" a voice rang out, soft yet commanding. Charles turned abruptly, finding an older man beside him, his face worn with age, eyes sharp and knowing. "Who are you?" Charles croaked. "I am the one who opened your eyes," the man replied knowingly, gesturing toward the shimmer where Robert had stood. "And who will show you the truth." The man waved his hand, and suddenly visions flooded Charles's mind, moments flickering like a gone-out screen. He saw Ellen with a different intensity, her eyes fierce but tinged with regret, then twisting to the past where dark figures loomed, whispering secrets, plans weaving bitter fates. "You're connected to this, aren't you?" Charles gasped, heart pounding. "I am," the man said, a slight nod revealing layers of weight behind his words. "And so are you." "No, I'm not a part of this," Charles shouted, but the tremble in his voice told another story. He felt unmoored, his world shifting beneath him. But then, like a bolt of lightning, it struck. The realization hit him hard. Everything he thought he knew was an illusion. Ellen, Robert, it was all a game, wasn't it? "More than you realize," the man said softly, a flicker of sadness crossing his features. "Do you still wish to find her? To uncover the threads that bind you?" "Yes, I'll do anything." The man smiled, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. But it was accompanied by something deeper, something dark. "Everything has consequences, boy, and the path you choose next will change everything. Are you ready?" Before Charles could respond, the ground beneath him pulsated again, and the world snapped back into focus. He felt the weight of every choice he had made, the shadows of people who swirled around him, darkness pulling at him like a storm, as he knew he was losing control. And then, just as suddenly, a scream pierced through the air. It was Ellen. "Charles!" He whirled around, heart racing, and realized the game was far from over. Who he trusted, what he fought for, everyone around him, all of it was about to change in ways he would have never imagined. The truth lurked close, but the price of revelation might just tear apart everything he knew. Charles stood there, heart banging against his ribcage, as the sound of Ellen's scream lingered in the air. "Ellen!" he shouted. But the noise of the city swallowed his voice whole. Panic carved into his chest. He turned, desperate to find her, to shield her from whatever chaos threatened them. "Where are you?" Each breath tasted sour, thick with fear. Footsteps pounded nearby, and he spun around to see a familiar figure staggering through the smoke. Ellen. But she didn't look like the fierce woman who had pulled him from the armored car. Her face was pale, eyes wide with something more than fear. It was horror. "Charles," she yelled, pushing through the crowd. "You have to listen to me. We have to go now." "What's happening?" he shouted back, confusion robbing him of clarity. The fraying threads of trust seemed to unravel. In that moment, he could almost hear Robert's taunting words echo in his mind. Trust her or not? The world erupted in noise again. People ran, their faces smeared with panic. Then, the atmosphere shifted. An intense pressure built, a sudden chill that swept down the street, sending shivers through the air. Charles felt it deep in his bones, a feeling like the air before a thunderstorm. And then, an explosion. But it wasn't the kind he expected. The ground erupted beneath his feet. A pulse of blinding light rushed forward, engulfing everything in its path. "Get down!" Ellen screamed, but the world blurred as hot light consumed him. He felt the floor disappear. Charles tumbled, free-falling into darkness. It was warm. A cocoon of silence enveloped him, until it snapped back to reality with a violent jolt. When he opened his eyes again, he was not in the streets of Chicago. Instead, he found himself seated, eyes locked onto a device, the kind you only see in sci-fi movies. It hummed with life, shimmering with blue and gold lights, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Ellen stood nearby, her expression frozen in shock, staring straight ahead. "Ellen," he breathed, confusion washing over him. "What's going on?" Before she could respond, the device flickered to life, and words illuminated in front of them. Subject identified, Charles Burnham. Classification, anomaly. His heart raced as he tried to comprehend the words. Anomaly? What does that mean? Suddenly, the walls around them dissolved, revealing images, flashes of memories that weren't his. A child laughing, a woman smiling, a face that looked identical to his. "What the hell?" he gasped, heart pounding. "Charles, I can explain." Ellen stepped closer, voice shaking, fear etched on her face. But he could see it, the truth pulling at the threads of his reality. "Anomaly," he whispered, uncertainty gripping him. "What are you not telling me?" I was sent to protect you because you are meant for something greater," she confessed, tears swimming in her eyes. "But we can't keep running." Then the room shuddered, the lights dimmed, and the device crackled with energy. A new figure emerged from the shadows, dressed in a crisp uniform, face familiar yet terrifying. "Mother!" Ellen breathed, horror painted across her features. The woman stepped forward, eyes like daggers. "You shouldn't have come here. He's not what you think." "Wait," Charles said, his world spinning. "What do you mean? Your father is not—" The woman hesitated, every word a tortured gasp. "He's alive, Charles. And we're not just running from Robert. He's involved in this. He's watching us for a reason." A flood of confusion crashed over him. "But I thought—" "Stop!" Ellen interjected, voice firm but trembling. "If you stay here, you'll never be safe." Just then, the device sparked, lights flickering anew, shadows swirling. The fabric of reality began to pull apart again, the urgency palpable. As they readied to escape, a flash of insight hit him like lightning. "Wait. You're not protecting me. You're trying to use me." Ellen's eyes widened in horror. "Charles, no! But it was too late." The figures in the room twisted. The light flooded his senses, and before he could grasp the full weight of the truth, the room imploded once more, dragging him into a vast unknown. He felt weightless, suspended between what was real and what was deception. Shattered echoes of mistrust lingered as the narrative of his life unraveled, leaving nothing but questions in their wake. What had he become? And who would he be when the dust finally settled? Ellen's scream echoed in his ears like thunder as everything warped around him. Charles reopened his eyes, a frenzied blend of relief and fear coursing through his veins. The glare from the device illuminated the once familiar, now unfamiliar space. And there she was, standing just a few feet away, fear sharpening her features. "Charles, we have to go. Now," she urged, her voice shaky and urgent, pulling him from the grasp of confusion. He could feel the weight of the moment crashing down on him. "You shot him, Ellen! What the hell was that all about?" The words burst out, raw and trembling. I just thought... Tears pooled in her eyes. To protect you. Things are worse than we knew. But before he could respond, the device crackled again, and the lights flickered ominously. The woman who claimed to be his mother loomed back into focus, face as cold as ice. We don't have time for explanations. They'll find us. The gravity of her words pressed on Charles like a storm cloud. Who are they? What do you mean? Your father is still a player in all of this, and our enemies know you're alive. Her desperation hung in the air like smoke, thick and suffocating. Charles's mind raced. This was all too much. Betrayal, danger, it felt too surreal. But a fire ignited in his chest. I'm not going to be scared anymore. I want the truth. Ellen's face twisted in pain. And I want to tell you. But we need to move. She reached for him, her hand trembling but firm. Another explosion rumbled outside, shaking the very ground beneath them. The sky turned into a cacophony of sirens and shouts, a dreadful symphony of chaos. Come on, Ellen pushed him toward the back exit of the room, urgency pulsing in her voice. This way. They ran through a narrow corridor, the walls still pulsing with energy from the device behind them. Each footfall echoed like a heartbeat, quick and frantic, but they emerged into the open air, only to find a battlefield outside. Chaos reigned. People shouted, panic swept through the streets. It felt as though the world was ending. And yet, through it all, there was a shared determination in the air, a glimmer of hope amid the wreckage. Where do we go from here? He asked, breathless, scanning the faces, stricken with fear and resolve. Anywhere but here, Ellen yelled, pulling him forward. Trust me this time. He hesitated, recalling how far their trust had shattered. But there was a spark in her eyes, a part of him that wanted to believe. As they dashed through the shifting mass of humanity, Charles caught glimpses of the fierce glint of hope shining in those around them. He felt it too, rising within him. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about reclaiming a life he never truly understood. In a moment that would change their lives forever, he grabbed Ellen's hand, squeezing it tight. Together, no matter what, always. He shouted, a fierce determination lighting up her face. In that instant, they became a united force, fueled by a shared purpose, racing toward an uncertain future, hoping to uncover the truths that bound them together. The connection between them felt stronger than ever, solidified through pain and struggle. The world roared, the uncertainty loomed, but as they plunged forward into the crowd, they held on to each other tight, ready to face whatever came next. And somewhere deep within Charles, a voice whispered, perhaps it was time to embrace the chaos, time to fight for the truth, and above all, time to trust each other and trust in themselves. But what truth awaited them? What revelations and dangers lurked just ahead? He couldn't shake the familiar unease as they pushed through the chaos, moving deeper into the unknown. And you must subscribe now so you don't miss the next incredible story. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now.